The rich heir's voice dripped with condescension. My father's company profits in the millions. Asterisk ding. Asterisk payment received, $23. He faltered, trying to regain his composure. As I was saying, the market this year is. Asterisk ding. Asterisk payment received, $18. All eyes turned to Evan Su, the quiet freshman who was supposed to be impressed. He offered an apologetic smile, glancing at his phone. Sorry about that. My little fruit shop gets busy this time of night. Please, continue. The heir's face turned the color of ash. This wasn't the dull boy his ex-girlfriend Mia remembered. This was the campus legend who silenced an entire auditorium with a stolen guitar. He was the strategist who turned the untouchable campus queen into a business partner, the boyfriend who now calmly held his girl's hand while financially dismantling a rival with a relentless stream of payment alerts. He once joked he was working hard for her dowry. But looking at the quiet, possessive power in his eyes, she knew it wasn't a joke. It was a business plan. Evan and Leo were laughing as they walked back to the dorm. As they passed the student activity center, a clear female voice called out, Evan. It was Sophie Wong, the girl with the ponytail from their first dorm dinner. She trotted over, her white t-shirt tucked into denim shorts, and looked up at him. Why didn't you reply to my message? I've been busy. Did you need something? Evan's reply was polite but distant. He vaguely remembered getting a message from her during boot camp, but had forgotten about it. Let's formally introduce ourselves. I'm Sophie Wong, from the International Economics and Trade Program. She held out her hand. Evan shook it briefly and let go. He learned that there was a freshman welcome party on Friday, and that Frankie had already promised to watch her perform, but Evan just smiled noncommittally. He even half-jokingly told Sophie that Frankie had called him dad 10 times just to get her contact info. The comment both explained how Frankie had added her and subtly drew a line between them. Watching Sophie walk away, Leo teased, Looks like she's into you. Evan shook his head, a trace of world weariness in his voice. Too much trouble. I don't know why, but nowadays, whenever a girl who likes to play games gets close, I can just feel it. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away at another university, Mia Gu was being troubled by the very attention she once craved. She was the undisputed campus beauty, approached by countless guys every day, but she found that none of them could compare to Evan. She rejected one suitor after another, but a resentful voice in her heart grew louder. Couldn't she find a single guy in this huge university who was better than Evan in every way? Annoyed, she opened her high school group chat. The old class president, Leo Lee, was bragging about being elected president again in college. Just then, a message from Kevin Sheen popped up. He's busy. He was a platoon leader during boot camp. Now he's the class president, and he's got a girlfriend. He doesn't have time to pop up in the chat. The group fell silent. Mia stared at the words, stunned. Evan, class president? With a girlfriend? The honest, almost dull boy from high school? Impossible. Unwilling to believe it, she asked her roommate, Chloe, for confirmation. They both concluded it must be Kevin just bragging. At the same time, Evan received a message from Kevin. Dude, I was just annoyed seeing Leo Lee showing off, so I made something up. Are you really the class president? You idiot. Evan replied, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Next time you decide to brag for me, can you give me a heads up? You did all my bragging. What's left for me to do? The classes from Tuesday to Thursday were unremarkable. Evan's mind was already on the shop that would soon be his. As soon as class ended on Friday, he and Leo rushed to the snack street. The owner of the crepe stand was waiting. Evan carefully reviewed every word of the contract, and after confirming there were no traps, he signed his name. With a transfer of $180,000 from his bank account, the owner handed Evan Su a heavy set of keys. Back in the dorm that evening, Frankie was giggling foolishly at his computer screen, his chat window with Sophie open. Evan, after a shower, put on one of the face masks Claire had given him. He sent her a selfie and got a quick reply. So ugly. But he couldn't help smiling. Evan, hurry up, let's go to the welcome party. Frankie urged. I never said I was going. Under Frankie's shameless threats, Evan finally relented. When Evan Su and Leo arrived at the activity center, it was already packed. Just as Evan Su and Leo were looking for seats, Frankie's phone lit up. She said she's coming to find us. The words had barely left Frankie's mouth when Sophie emerged from a side door near the stage. She had changed into high heels, a tight white shirt, and a black skirt, her two ponytails looking both playful and sexy. She immediately became the center of attention, walking straight towards Evan Su and his roommates, her eyes fixed almost entirely on Evan Su as she smiled. You guys came? The backstage area was a chaotic world inside a massive, temporary tent, thick with the smell of cosmetics and nervous sweat. Sophie led Evan Su and his roommates there before hurrying off to rehearse. Frankie's gaze was glued to Sophie Wong. She's so damn cute, Frankie mumbled. Evan, uninterested in the commotion, pulled back the tent flap for some air just as a graceful figure was about to enter. Their eyes met. Evan Su recognized her as Victoria Jiang, the top beauty of the finance department. Evan Su politely stepped aside to let Victoria Jiang pass. When Evan Su stepped outside, Frankie rushed after Evan Su. Dude, that was Victoria Jiang. She's even prettier in person. Nothing special. Evan Su replied casually. Evan Su's voice low, but carrying like a stone dropped in still water. Evan Su didn't notice that Victoria Jiang hadn't gone far inside the tent. Evan Su's nonchalant comment reached Victoria Jiang's ears perfectly. Victoria Jiang had heard countless compliments, but Evan Su was the first to ever describe her as nothing special. The party began. The music was loud, the host's banter endless. The performances were one after another, but the crowd only truly came alive when Sophie Wong and her dancers appeared on stage in short skirts. Frankie grabbed Evan Su's arm, yelling, "She's looking at me! She's looking at me!" Evan Su looked at Sophie Wong, who was indeed smiling in Evan Su's direction, and Evan Su thought to himself, "You idiot! Sophie Wong's not looking at you. Sophie Wong's making eyes at me." After Sophie Wong's dance, the party returned to a series of bland singing acts. Just as Evan Su was about to slip away, a problem arose backstage. A boy with a guitar, Kyle Zhang, was so nervous Kyle Zhang's legs were shaking uncontrollably, refusing to go on stage. Seeing this, Leo nudged Evan Su. "Didn't you say you can play guitar? Why don't you go up and help out? It's a great chance to build a reputation for our fruit shop." Advertise the fruit shop? The words sparked an idea in Evan Su's mind. Right, why didn't I think of that? Okay, for the money, I'll do it. Evan Su strode over to the teary-eyed Kyle Zhang, and Evan Su said calmly, "If you don't want to go on, let me borrow your guitar." Kyle Zhang handed the guitar over as if Kyle Zhang was granted a pardon. To the astonishment of everyone backstage, Evan Su slung the guitar over Evan Su's shoulder and walked confidently onto the stage. Evan Su sat on a stool, adjusted the microphone, and addressed the noisy crowd. "A correction. The scheduled performer is unable to go on. I'm Evan Su from the finance department, and I'll be singing a song for you all." With that, a clear, beautiful guitar intro flowed from Evan Su's fingertips, instantly silencing the entire venue. Evan Su began to sing. Evan Su's voice was deep and full of story, each note landing perfectly in the hearts of the audience. Evan Su's performance wasn't a simple imitation, but a reinterpretation infused with Evan Su's own understanding. When the song ended, Evan Su stood and bowed. After a moment of silence, thunderous applause erupted. He didn't linger, simply returned the guitar to a dumbfounded Kyle, and slipped away with his two equally stunned roommates, leaving behind a flurry of girls desperately asking, "Who is that Evan from the finance department?" Victoria Jiang stood at the side of the stage, a playful smile on her lips as she watched Evan Su leave. "This freshman," Victoria Jiang murmured to her friend, "Evan Su's got something." That night, Evan Su's name exploded on the university forums. His friend requests were nonstop. Annoyed, he changed his social media nickname to 4 simple words, "In a relationship." Then, Evan Su opened his chat with Claire, explaining that he couldn't visit this weekend. Their fruit shop was going to the wholesale market tomorrow and would have a soft opening the day after. "Dowries are expensive where we're from," Evan Su typed jokingly. "I'm afraid your parents will ask for too much, and I won't be able to afford it." On the other end, Claire, blushing, replied with only 5 words, "I'm already asleep." The next morning, the fame was forgotten. Evan Su and Leo took a 2-hour bus ride to the massive, damp wholesale fruit market. With an introduction from the truck driver, Mr. Chun, Evan Su and Leo successfully connected with several vendors, securing their supply lines. The entire afternoon was spent in the new shop. As the evening sun cast a golden hue over the city, the brand new sign, "Claire's Fruits," was hung securely in place. The freezers, cash register, and display shelves were all set up. Exhausted but satisfied, Evan Su and Leo collapsed on the floor, looking at the fruit of their labor. Everything was ready. Sunday morning, just as dawn broke, Evan dragged his 3 roommates out of bed. They picked up a load of supplies, a digital scale, security cameras, payment QR codes, and got to work in the pristine Claire's Fruits shop. By noon, Mr. Chen's familiar truck arrived with the first shipment of fresh fruit. As they were busy arranging the watermelons, pineapples, and bananas, Kevin Sheen arrived, breathless, finding a scene of bustling activity and a version of Evan he had never seen before, calmly in command. Lunch was 5 boxes of fried rice. Squatting by the entrance, Kevin looked at the cheap meal and remembered Evan's promise of a feast, almost throwing his food away in frustration. Evan, however, was unfazed. After a few bites, he began his pre-battle briefing. "Listen up," he said, his voice quiet but commanding. "Leo, go get a price list made into a large banner. Thomas, Frankie, for every customer, invite them to scan the code and join our messaging group. Tell them we'll post deals there first. I want to turn customers into our own private community." He paused, looking at their stunned faces. "Free delivery within the university for any order over 50. Also, I've written a social media post. I need you all to share it. 10 likes get a 10% discount, 20 for 20% off, 30 for 30. I want the entire finance department to know about us in the shortest time possible." Finally, he tossed his empty container in the trash, his eyes glinting with a sharpness that belied his 18 years. I'm going to teach the owner of that Kanyuan fruit shop 300 meters away a lesson in what a next-level disruptive strategy looks like. At 2 in the afternoon, the storm began. A recorded announcement from Evan played on a loop, and the viral spread of the social media post, combined with his newfound fame from the welcome party, drove a steady stream of customers to the small shop. The first to arrive were his classmates, led by Haley Zhao, and their support started a chain reaction. The shop grew more and more crowded. By evening, a long line had formed outside. The owner of the competing shop watched in disbelief, unable to comprehend how this new store had become so popular in just a few hours. The rush continued until 8 at night, by which time a good portion of the fruit had sold out. Evan called it a day and took the exhausted crew to a nearby food stall for dinner, while Thomas volunteered to stay and mind the shop. Sometime during the meal, Sophie Wong joined them, her eyes full of undisguised admiration for Evan. While they were waiting for their food, Evan shouted towards the kitchen, "Ma'am, if you haven't started our order yet, we'll just cancel it." No, it's on its way. Coming right up," the owner quickly replied. Sure enough, their food arrived within 2 minutes. This simple trick for getting faster service made Sophie's eyes shine even brighter. After the meal, Kevin had to leave to catch the last subway. Evan borrowed a classmate's electric scooter to take him to the station. The city lights blurred past. Sitting on the back, Kevin was silent for a long time before finally saying, "Evan, I feel like you're different from high school. The gap between us. It feels like it's getting bigger and bigger." Evan stopped at a red light and looked up at the dark sky. He smiled, his voice laced with a quiet, knowing melancholy. "Yeah," he said softly. "We're only 18. Back at the food stall, the mood had shifted. Sophie casually asked Evan where he was from. When he said Jiangzhou, Leo, with a glance at the oblivious Frankie, deliberately added, "I think he and his girlfriend are both from Jiangzhou." Girlfriend? The word was like a bucket of cold water, extinguishing the light in Sophie's eyes. After getting confirmation from Frankie, her disappointment was palpable. She made an excuse and left before Evan returned, her retreating figure looking a little lonely. Frankie, the fool, remained completely unaware. When Evan got back to the shop, it was already 9 o'clock. He looked at the remaining fruit and the nearly 300 members in his customer group, a mysterious smile playing on his lips. "Go back to the dorm? You're kidding," he said to a weary Frankie. "The second half is just getting started." Before his confused roommates could ask, he opened the group chat and sent a message. "At everyone, mangoes, grapes, peaches, and cucumbers are left over. 60% off, and we'll deliver any order over 30 before 10:30 tonight." The message sent ripples through the quiet campus night. Orders flooded the chat. With this one move, Evan not only cleared his inventory, but also sent a clear message to all his customers. "We only sell the freshest fruit. What are you two idiots waiting for?" Evan pointed to the already packed bags. "Get delivering." For the next hour, Leo and Frankie became delivery boys, zipping across the quiet campus. Only when the shelves were nearly bare did Evan pull down the shutter, satisfied. The next day, the shop continued to thrive. In the advisor's office, however, a different scene was playing out. Ethan Zhang was formally complaining to Tanya Su that Evan, as class president, shouldn't be distracted by a business. Tanya simply smiled and dropped a bombshell. "Ethan, did you know? During the election, Evan cast his vote for you." Ethan was stunned. He couldn't comprehend why his rival would do such a thing. At noon, in the cafeteria, Evan was contemplating lunch when a tall, cool figure approached. It was the campus beauty, Victoria Jiang. Just as they were about to pass each other, Evan stuck out his arm, blocking her path. "Victoria, can I get your contact info?" The entire cafeteria seemed to freeze. Everyone knew Victoria's reputation for being aloof. But to their astonishment, she simply frowned, took out her phone, and asked, "You scan me, or I scan you?" After the friend request went through, Evan added, his voice carrying clearly, "Victoria, could you share the first post on my feed for me?" Victoria paused. She seemed to take a deep breath before walking away. So, he only wanted to add her to get her to share an ad for his fruit shop? Back at the shop, Evan hired a fourth-year law student named Evelyn Su to work part-time, and the new employee quickly settled in. That evening, as Evan was dozing off in a chair outside the busy shop, a pair of long, slender legs appeared in his line of sight. He jerked his head up and found himself looking into a familiar, exquisite face. "Victoria, what are you doing here?" After Evan sent Kevin on his way, the atmosphere back at the restaurant turned awkward. Upon confirming that Evan did, in fact, have a girlfriend, a disappointed Sophie Wong made a quick exit. But Evan's night was far from over. Back at Claire's Fruits, he launched a late-night flash sale in the customer group chat, turning his roommates into delivery boys and clearing out nearly all his remaining stock. This move became his signature, establishing a reputation for selling only the freshest fruit. The following days saw the business boom. He hired a part-time employee, Evelyn, a sharp law student, to help manage the store. A price war initiated by the shop next door fizzled out, unable to compete with Evan's customer loyalty and delivery service. His campus fame also led to a memorable confrontation in the cafeteria, where he publicly stopped the university's top beauty, Victoria Jiang, not to ask her out, but to get her to share an ad for his shop. That evening, Victoria actually showed up at the store. She agreed to share the ad, but only if he gave her 2 pounds of apples for free. Evan happily complied. He watched her post it, thanked her, and sent her on her way. But when he refreshed his own feed, he couldn't see her post. He sent her a message, confused. Her reply came back instantly. I said it so no one can see it. Evan stared at his phone. He'd been played by the seemingly aloof campus queen. Evan had deliberately contacted Claire less this week, knowing that a little distance would make their reunion sweeter. He left the shop in Evelyn's capable hands and, after an hour and a half on the subway, arrived at her dorm. This time, however, he was carrying a different kind of bouquet, one made of vibrant, red strawberries, carefully arranged like a cluster of roses. When Claire ran downstairs, she saw him standing there, holding the strawberry bouquet, a smile in his eyes. He looked a little paler and a bit thinner than 2 weeks ago. The envious stares of passers-by and the teasing shouts from her roommates upstairs made Claire's face burn. She grabbed his hand and pulled him into a quiet alley. Don't ever come here making such a big scene again, she complained, her back against the cool brick wall. But Evan stepped closer, trapping her between his body and the wall. He leaned in, his warm breath ghosting across her cheek, his voice low and magnetic. If I don't make a big scene, what if some other guy tries to bother you? Claire's heart skipped a beat. She pressed her hands against his chest, feeling his strong, steady heartbeat. She looked away, flustered. I'll treat you to dinner. I'm hungry. Evan's gaze was intense. But not for food. Then what do you want? You? Seeing her shocked expression, Evan laughed and stepped back, breaking the charged atmosphere. At the cafeteria, he ordered their food but mischievously made Claire pay with her student card. As she sat down across from him, Evan's phone buzzed. It was a message from her mother, Melinda. On impulse, he secretly snapped a photo of Claire eating and sent it to her. Melinda immediately got to the point. What are you doing for lodging tonight? Evan replied. I'll probably get a hotel nearby. A moment later, a cash transfer for $500 popped up on his screen, along with a message, get a nice hotel. But don't let Claire get back to her dorm too late. Evan looked at the screen, a wide grin spreading across his face. He knew this wasn't just $500. It was a heavy, silent blessing of approval from his future mother-in-law. Under the cafeteria lights, Claire stopped after eating only half the food on her plate. Evan glanced over, then naturally picked up his chopsticks and plucked a piece of braised pork from her plate, murmuring, such a waste. It's not like I mind your leftovers. Claire's cheeks instantly flushed crimson. She wanted to stop him, but it was too late. She watched as he matter-of-factly finished the rest of her food, a sense of familiarity and intimacy that sent a strange sweetness through her heart. She turned her head away, pretending not to see. They walked side by side down a tree-lined path on campus. The evening breeze was cool, chasing away the heat of the day. You came all the way here, what about the fruit shop? She asked softly. Everything's taken care of. Evan's tone was light. I even hired a part-timer as senior. Don't worry, she's not as pretty as you. I'm not jealous, she retorted quickly, but her voice betrayed her. Evan just smiled without a word, which only made her more flustered. She sped up, muttering under her breath, shameless, pervert, turtle, bastard. After 2 laps around the track, the night had deepened. Claire finally broke the silence. Where are you staying tonight? I'll find a hotel nearby. You're so cheap. You're willing to spend money on a hotel? I'm only cheap with myself. Have I ever been stingy with you? After a moment of silence, Claire took out her phone and sent him a cash gift of $500. Evan looked at the screen, the exact same amount Melinda had sent him yesterday, and couldn't help but laugh. He sat down next to her and said cheekily, how about you add another 20? To make it 520, a number that means I love you. Claire turned her head away and ignored him. The next morning, Evan was waiting downstairs at her dorm, only to be ambushed by Claire's 3 roommates. Victoria Jiang grabbed him and, with lightning speed, smuggled him up to their room. Surrounded by the scent of face wash and foundation, he was treated to the chaotic spectacle of 4 beautiful girls getting ready. He sent a quick voice note to Kevin, who responded with a string of jealous, curse-laden messages. The group of 5 set off for the historic Kew Garden. The subway on a Saturday was a sea of people. As the train roared into the station, Evan grabbed Claire's wrist without a word and pulled her into the crowded car. He shielded her in a corner, his body a barrier against the jostling crowd. His hand held hers tightly, the warmth spreading from her palm and making her forget the noise around her. In the afternoon, they found themselves in a karaoke bar. After her 3 roommates had belted out their songs, the microphone was passed to Evan. He chose an old classic, a love song called Big City, Small Love. As the gentle melody began, the room fell quiet. Evan's voice was clean and sincere. The dark ends of your hair coiled in a bun, winding around all my affection for you, he sang, his eyes glancing at Claire beside him. The line "my head is full of you, my heart is full of you, a small love is so sweet in this big city" was a blatant confession that made Claire's heart skip a beat. That evening, they went to a mall for dinner. As they approached the elevator, a voice called out, "Victoria?" Two stylishly dressed guys walked over. One of them, Julian Lee, took off his sunglasses, his gaze sweeping over the girls before landing on Evan. "And this is?" "Oh, he's Claire's boyfriend," Victoria introduced. Evan caught a flash of jealousy in Julian's eyes. Julian quickly recovered his smile and generously offered, "Why don't we have dinner together? My treat." While the others hesitated, Evan nodded. "I don't have a problem with that." Just then, the elevator doors opened with a ding. Evan didn't give anyone a chance to react. He reached out, and in full view of everyone, took Claire's hand, holding it firmly in his own. She flinched, instinctively trying to pull away, but felt the unyielding strength in his grip. She looked up, met his eyes, which were more possessive than usual, and instantly understood. In the private room of the upscale restaurant, the air was thick with the aroma of fine food and a hint of tension. Julian Lee, the guy in the pink shirt and Omega watch, played the perfect host, his every word and gesture oozing a carefully curated sense of superiority. He handed the menu to Victoria, dropped a poorly pronounced "ladies first," and then turned his attention to Evan. "So, you're in the finance department?" he asked, a subtle disdain in his voice. "That school is just a second-tier university in Shanghai. If you hadn't come here, you might have gotten into a better one." Evan didn't take the bait. He simply raised his and Claire's intertwined hands, smiling calmly. "Couldn't be helped. My girlfriend wanted to come to Shanghai, so I had to follow her." The single sentence checkmated him. Julian's smile froze for a second. Throughout the meal, he relentlessly showcased his family background, from his father's company to its multi-million-dollar profits, all to paint a picture of himself as a wealthy heir. Evan just ate quietly, occasionally putting food on Claire's plate, completely uninterested in the one-man show. But just as Julian's bragging reached its peak, a crisp, electronic voice suddenly chimed in. "Payment received, $23. It was Evan's phone on the table. Julian paused, then tried to continue. "But the economy is better this year, so maybe." "Payment received, $18. Payment received, $21.50. Payment received, $11. The notifications came one after another, a relentless, rhythmic interruption. The atmosphere in the room turned strange. "Oh, sorry about that," Evan said with an apologetic smile. "I opened a small fruit shop near the university, and it gets busy around this time. I'll turn the volume down. You guys continue." Julian's face had turned a sickly shade of green. He tried to resume his topic, but each "payment received" was like an invisible slap, shattering the image of superiority he had so carefully constructed. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and slammed his hand on the table, only to awkwardly claim he was swatting a mosquito. He was silent for the rest of the meal. When they were nearly finished, Evan gently wiped a smudge from the corner of Claire's mouth with a napkin. She didn't pull away, instead tilting her head up slightly to meet him. It was a silent, triumphant ritual. Evan took her hand and said to Julian, "Thanks for dinner tonight. We're going to head back now." The laughter didn't erupt until the elevator doors closed, shutting out the awkward silence. "Evan, you're ruthless." Victoria howled with laughter. Claire couldn't help but smile too, but then she shot Evan a fierce look and gave his side a vengeful pinch. After dropping off the three chaperones, Evan and Claire walked through the campus. "Is it really only a 40-minute drive from your school?" Claire asked suddenly. "Yeah, if there's no traffic." She just said, "Oh," but the question planted a seed in her mind. That night, an argument erupted between her parents. Harrison complained his daughter was distant, but Melinda coolly listed all the small details about Claire's life she'd learned from Evan, concluding, "I think Evan is a good kid. If Claire likes him, I approve." Just then, Claire called, her first words being, "I don't have enough allowance. $5,000 a month isn't enough." Melinda frowned. A moment of silence, then a reply that stunned both adults. "I want to buy a car." The storm over buying a car was later quelled by Evan, who firmly told Melinda he would buy one himself with his own abilities. The next day, he told Claire, "Don't you worry your pretty little head about things like that. I never said I was buying it for you," she muttered. "Then why buy a car?" "So I can make you my driver." Evan just smiled. "The national holiday is next week. Let's go home together." The girl nodded softly. During lunch, she quietly moved the untouched ribs from her bowl into his. "You're not allowed to message me during class anymore." Claire's reply was almost instant, her words dripping with a feigned annoyance that couldn't hide her flustered state. "Why not?" Evan asked, playing dumb. "No reason." "All right, I get it," he typed with a smile. "But I really did dream about you last night." A moment of silence, then a single, pouty word appeared on the screen, "Humph." The last few days before the national holiday were a whirlwind for Evan. He efficiently handled class funds and holiday travel surveys, then cleverly delegated the task of buying new cleaning supplies to the class vice president, Ethan, along with a piece of cynical, worldly advice that left the other boy bewildered. He also flatly rejected a personal invitation from a senior student union officer to join their ranks. Why would he play politics when he could be a boss? On the 30th, the day before the holiday, Evan and his roommates unloaded a new shipment of fruit at the shop. He promised Thomas double pay for staying behind to manage it, then rushed back to the dorm to pack. At the high-speed rail station, Kevin watched Evan and Claire walk towards him side by side, a complex mix of emotions churning within him. He was still struggling to find a date, while his best friend was already living out a romantic drama. On the train, Kevin finally asked for advice on girls. Evan set aside his usual jokes and answered seriously. If you meet someone you like, don't rush to chase her. Get to know her first. The best way to pursue someone will always be sincerity. Sincerity is the ultimate weapon. The train arrived in Jiangzhou late at night. At the exit, Melinda's black luxury van was already waiting. She not only picked up her daughter, but warmly insisted on driving Evan and Kevin home safely. In the car, her cheerful conversation with Evan and her obvious approval made Kevin burn with envy. He didn't even have a girlfriend, and his friend had already won over the mother-in-law. It was after midnight when he got home. His parents, woken by the knock, were overjoyed to see him. His mother, Hannah, immediately went to the kitchen to make him a bowl of hot noodles. As the family sat around the table, Hannah's eyes landed on Evan's new iPhone. Son, where did this phone come from? My girlfriend gave it to me, Evan said without thinking. The air instantly froze. His parents exchanged a look but didn't press further, though they later whispered excitedly about their future daughter-in-law behind their closed door. The first day of the holiday, Evan slept in, then took a taxi to Claire's neighborhood, Red Leaf Manor. Melinda greeted him warmly. A moment later, Claire appeared at the top of the stairs and softly said, "Come on up." It was the first time Evan had ever stepped into her bedroom. A light, pleasant fragrance hung in the air. He followed her out to the terrace and sat on a lounge chair, basking in the warm sun. Melinda brought up a platter of cut fruit, smiling. "Evan, why don't you stay for lunch?" Before Evan could be polite, Claire cut in, "As if you'd ever say no." Downstairs, a black Audi pulled into the driveway. It was Harrison, Claire's father, rushing home from work the moment he heard his daughter was back. He saw his ex-wife in the kitchen and asked eagerly, "Melinda, where's Claire?" "You're just in time," Melinda said, carrying out a dish. "Go upstairs and call them down for lunch." Harrison started to move, then froze. Melinda wiped her hands, her tone casual. "Evan is upstairs too." Harrison's face turned a deep shade of crimson. He stood there, dumbfounded, before finally squeezing a furious roar from between his teeth. "That little bastard is here again." That lunch was agony for Harrison Chun. He watched as Evan and Melinda chatted happily, as Evan placed food on Claire's plate, and as Claire, in a shockingly natural gesture, moved the pork from her bowl into Evan's. The seamless intimacy was a five-alarm fire in Harrison's mind. After the meal, Claire took the car keys and left with Evan, right under her father's complex gaze. In the movie theater, Evan's attention wasn't on the comedy playing on screen, but on the long, slender legs of the girl in the skirt beside him. When the lights came up, Claire finally couldn't take it anymore. "Have you stared enough?" Caught red-handed, Evan just grinned and admitted it. Just then, he caught sight of a familiar figure, a high school classmate, Chloe Liu, hiding around a corner and snapping pictures of them. An idea sparked. "I just saw a classmate from high school," he whispered to Claire. "Can you play along with me one more time? Be my girlfriend." He didn't wait for an answer, just stood up and took her hand again. This time, Claire didn't resist. She realized she no longer minded the warmth of his palm against hers. She even glanced back, confirming the identity of the spying figure, and felt a strange sense of satisfaction. They wandered through a supermarket, Evan's hand never letting go of hers. By the time they checked out, the tail was gone. But he still held her hand, all the way to the empty parking garage. "It just feels too good to let go," he said shamelessly when she questioned him. Meanwhile, Chloe had already sent all the photos to Mia Gu. When Mia saw the pictures of Evan, hand in hand with a girl even more beautiful than herself, a wave of bitter jealousy washed over her. She sent him an accusatory message, only to receive a teasing reply, followed by two final, cold words. "Let's delete each other." And then, a red exclamation mark. The rest of the national holiday was a roller coaster for Evan's status at home, going from precious son to household nuisance in under a week. The night before the holiday ended, Evan video called Claire. She had just showered, her hair still damp, her cheeks flushed. "What did you do all day?" he asked casually. "Nothing," she said, then added, "Oh wait, I went swimming with my mom." "Swimming?" Evan's eyes lit up. "Why didn't you invite me? You know how to swim?" "I could learn." She saw right through him. "I don't think you want to learn how to swim. I think you want to see me in a swimsuit." "You know me that well already," he admitted with a grin. The other end of the line went quiet. Evan felt the moment was right. He looked at the face on the screen, took a deep breath, and in a tone that was half joking but completely serious, he said clearly, "How about you be my girlfriend?" The call ended abruptly. Evan stared at the black screen for a moment, then broke into a smile. He knew that sudden hang-up wasn't a rejection. It was proof that her heart was in turmoil. That night, Claire didn't sleep a wink. Evan's question was a stone dropped into the lake of her heart, and the ripples refused to fade. The next morning, Evan and Kevin stood at the entrance of the complex, waiting. He wasn't sure if last night's question had created ripples or tidal waves. Only when the familiar black van pulled up did the knot in his stomach begin to loosen. The atmosphere in the car was frosty. Claire stared out the window, her profile tense and unapproachable. Evan sat beside her, able to smell the faint scent of her shampoo, but feel none of her warmth. The atmosphere in the car was frosty. Claire stared out the window, her profile tense and unapproachable. He tentatively tried to hook his finger around hers, but she pulled away. He tried again, and she lightly slapped the back of his hand. So he changed tactics. He made 2 fingers walk up his own leg, then mimed them falling to their knees with a pathetic expression. The silent pantomime finally made her crack a smile, though she quickly composed herself and held up a finger to warn him. The ice in the car had begun to melt. The 5-hour train ride became an incubator for their budding relationship. With Kevin bribed into a different seat, Evan watched the girl beside him nod off. He hesitated for a moment, then gently looped his arm around her, guiding her head to rest on his shoulder. He could feel the soft tickle of her hair against his neck and her warm, even breaths. He knew she wasn't truly asleep, because when the train passed through a dark tunnel, he felt her long eyelashes flutter against his skin like a butterfly's wings. For lunch, they had instant ramen. Claire fumbled for a hair tie, dropping it on the floor. Evan picked it up, but instead of handing it back, he moved behind her, gathered her waterfall of dark hair, and with gentle, if clumsy, movements, tied it into a neat ponytail. The whole time, she kept her head down, letting him fuss, using the steam from the noodles to hide her blushing face. Back on campus, life returned to normal. On Thursday morning, Evan dragged 2 sleepy roommates to the basketball court. He was rusty, but the muscle memory was there. As they played, a figure appeared on the sidelines, Sophie Wong. Her presence sent Frankie into a frenzy, but Sophie's eyes were only for Evan. After the game, she ran up and offered him a yogurt drink with a sweet smile. Evan politely declined. Frankie, ignored by the girl he liked, was heartbroken. On the way back to the dorm, Leo complained about the inconvenience of buying water, and a light bulb went off in Evan's head. Vending machines. A business that would be ubiquitous in a few years was, right now, a wide-open market. He immediately pitched the idea to Leo, and they agreed to partner up. Evan decided he would handle the university's logistics department. That evening, Evan took his scooter to the administration building, armed with carefully selected cigarettes and tea. He waited patiently outside for his target. As dusk fell, a familiar middle-aged man walked out of the building, Director Jiang from the logistics department. But just as Evan was about to approach, he saw something that stunned him. The campus beauty, Victoria Jiang, walked over from the other side of the building, casually opened the passenger door of Director Jiang's car, and got in. Victoria Jiang, Director Jiang, both named Jiang. A bold guess formed in his mind. Without hesitation, he pulled out his phone and sent a message to the campus beauty whose apples he had shamelessly acquired. Hey, campus queen, you there? No, I'm serious. The director of the logistics department. What's his relation to you? Evan's heart pounded as he waited. A moment later, his screen lit up with her reply. He's my uncle. How did you know we were related? Seeing the message, Evan smiled. He knew that an unexpected door to a whole new world had just creaked open for him. On Friday at noon, the university cafeteria was a vibrant tapestry of noise and smells. Evan scanned the crowd with his tray of chicken cutlet rice and quickly found his target. Victoria Jiang sat alone, a picture of refined elegance in a pink shirt, a silver bracelet glinting on her wrist. She seemed out of place in the surrounding chaos. Without hesitation, Evan walked over and sat down directly across from her. Let's talk, he said, getting straight to the point. Victoria looked up, her clear eyes showing little emotion. I'm eating. I don't have time. Then I'll wait. Evan offered a charming smile and sat quietly, ignoring the curious glances from other students. He waited patiently for 20 minutes as she ate, then dutifully took her tray to the collection point for her. Outside, under the bright afternoon sun, Evan cut to the chase. I need to see your uncle about something, and I need you to make the introduction. You can name your price, as long as it's not too outrageous. Victoria stopped walking. She seemed to have expected this. What do you want with my uncle? Evan then laid out his entire business plan for the campus vending machines, speaking methodically about convenience, customer access, and future business trends. Victoria listened silently, her expression unreadable. When she didn't respond, he waved a hand in front of her face. Hello? Are you going to say something? Victoria snapped back to the present, her gaze direct. She said something Evan never expected. I can take you to see my uncle, and I can even put in a good word for you. But I have a condition. What is it? I want in, she stated, each word deliberate and firm. I want to join your team. Evan was stunned, certain he'd misheard. Do you have the money? Was his instinctive reply. If I invest 100,000, what percentage of the shares do I get? 25%. All right, it's a deal. With that, Victoria turned and walked away, as if a major business deal had just been sealed in a matter of seconds. That night, Victoria made a phone call she hadn't made in a long time. On the other end was the excited, almost subservient voice of her father. She dispensed with pleasantries and coldly demanded the inheritance her mother had left her. After hanging up, she stood alone on her dorm balcony, the wind whipping through her long hair as a childhood nursery rhyme echoed in her mind. Heaven's stars are weeping, earth's roses are wilting, the cold wind blows, as long as I have you with me. The next day, Evan dragged Leo to the vending machine factory. Without waiting for a firm confirmation from Victoria, he paid a $5,000 deposit and ordered 33 machines of various models. His decisiveness and trust were astounding. That evening, they met at a new steakhouse. Victoria was already waiting, a hint of annoyance in her eyes as Evan arrived right on time. When the server came, Victoria ordered the $1.99 set meal. Evan, however, spoke to the server in an almost crude tone. Steak, well done. If your chef doesn't know how, I can cook it myself. I'm from the sticks, I'm not used to eating raw things. Victoria's brow furrowed. Watching Evan devour his food, she began to have second thoughts about her decision to partner with him. But Evan didn't seem to care. He placed the cigarettes and tea he'd brought on the table. I trust you, he told her. You're my partner now. Even if your uncle won't do me a favor, he won't refuse you. Why do I get the feeling I've been scammed? Victoria said, putting down her fork, her appetite gone. After dinner, they took a taxi to the apartment complex where her uncle, Jiang Ping, lived. The door was opened by her aunt, a warm, middle-aged woman whose eyes immediately lit up with gossip when she saw Evan. Director Jiang emerged from his study, equally shocked to see his usually solitary niece with a boy in tow. In the living room, Evan calmly laid out his business plan again under two pairs of scrutinizing eyes. Jiang Ping listened, took a sip of tea, and replied with practiced bureaucracy. This isn't as simple as you think. Evan didn't respond, instead looking to Victoria. She took the cue. Uncle, Evan is my friend. Can you please just help him with this? This only seemed to confirm the couple's suspicions. Jiang Ping called Victoria into another room and shut the door. Vivi, he said in a low voice, tell me the truth. Is he your boyfriend? No. Victoria shook her head firmly. We're friends, and we're also business partners. I think this business can make money, so I decided to go into it with him. Besides, she added the crucial detail, he already has a girlfriend. Business partners? Jiang Ping was taken aback, and all his doubts vanished. His niece wanted to start a business, and he was in a position to help. There was no reason not to. When Jiang Ping re-emerged from the room, his expression had done a complete 180. He looked at Evan and nodded approvingly. You're confident in this project? Yes. Good. Jiang Ping slapped his thigh. I'll handle it for you. Our university also has another campus in Songjiang. If you do well here, I can help you get connections over there too.